Hey guys, and welcome back to 5 Star Study Guide. Today we're going to be taking a look at our second lesson in our first unit of our U.S. history course. And today we're going to be looking at New World exploration and Columbus. So last time we talked about some Native American tribes in North America and we did a little case study on them. Now we're going to jump forward a little bit and talk about some explorers and Christopher Columbus. So we obviously are in our Unit 1, Early Exploration and Colonial America, and today we're going to be talking about explorers and Christopher Columbus. So when we talk about New World exploration, what we mean is explorers from many European countries, coming from Europe obviously, over to North America, whether inadvertently or inadvertently. We're going to see both cases today, where they intend to go and discover new land in what we call over here the New World, or if they're trying to find other ways to get to places over here in the Old World, right? So if we draw a line right here, this is the New World, this is the Old World, and this is the New World. So we're looking at explorers from Europe in the Old World trying to come to the New World. So our first guy we're going to look at is Juan Ponce de Leon. So we're going to go a little bit out of order here. So let's assume that Columbus has already discovered the New World, right? He's already crossed over into the Western Hemisphere. He's found the island of Hispaniola. And so the Spanish want to keep looking, right? So they send Juan Ponce de Leon. Where do they send him? They send him to Puerto Rico. So Columbus already found Hispaniola. They know of this island called Puerto Rico, and they want Juan Ponce de Leon to go and find it. So he goes to the island of Puerto Rico, as you can see on your screen, and brings a bunch of men with him and settlement near present-day San Juan over here. That's the current capital of Puerto Rico, so that's where they make their little settlement once they reach on the island. So now that he has his settlement, Juan needs supplies. So what does he do? He goes over to Hispaniola, and while he's there, they say, hey, you're the governor of Puerto Rico. So now he is kind of the head of this island. They have a settlement. They've explored this island. So now the Spanish have just got some more land to deal with, right? But that's not enough for him, right? He wants to he's not satisfied with his discoveries. He wants to keep going and building. So he hears from natives on Puerto Rico about an island called Bimini. And in Bimini, there is supposedly a fountain with water that you drink and you never age, you never die. So a sort of fountain of youth. So he wants to go and find this fountain of youth. And he lands in present-day St. Augustine, Florida. So right here, St. Augustine, Florida. That's where he lands. Obviously, it wasn't St. Augustine, Florida back then, but that's where he ends up landing. There's no fountain of youth. But now the Spanish have Hispaniola, which we'll talk about later when we get to Columbus, Puerto Rico, which is Juan Ponce de Leon's thing, and Florida. Pretty big deal. So Juan Ponce de Leon did a lot for the Spanish in colonizing, exploring some land in the New World. All right. So those are the accomplishments, right? You got St. Augustine over there, Puerto Rico over here, and Hispaniola over here. So now, since Juan Ponce de Leon found them, all owned by Spain. So Juan Ponce de Leon really helping Spain there. Now let's move to Henry Hudson. He's a bit farther north, right? Okay, so Hudson was commissioned to find a way to get to Asia. He needed to find a way to Asia that they didn't have to go all the way around Africa. So his plan was, let me go from Europe, which is over here. You can see our European countries over here. And let's go through the Arctic. Obviously, he didn't know what was there. And over Only problem is he was stopped by ice. Twice, actually. 2 times he tried to go through the Arctic to get to Asia and was stopped by ice. So he got a new boss, the Dutch. The Dutch said, "Hey, we really like what you're doing. We want you to find a route for us, but try not going to the Arctic." So he goes a bit southern. He's like, "All right, we're not going to go through the Arctic. We're going to go a bit south now." But this time he goes from Europe and goes west and wanders in to present-day Canada and the Hudson Bay, which is over here. Goes in the Hudson Bay, accidentally, right? He wanted to get to Asia, accidentally goes west, wanders into the Hudson Bay, where he falls victim to mutiny by his crew. His crew basically says, "We don't like you anymore. You're gone." Never heard from again. Henry Hudson, never heard from again. But his legacy is actually probably more consequential in a good way than what he did with his life. Obviously, he found the Hudson Bay, and that helped the Dutch, set up some settlements in present-day Canada. So that helped, obviously. And also, as you can see over here, the blue, it helped them find the Dutch and colonize the Hudson Valley. So you got New Jersey, Long Island, and New York here. It helped them colonize that. So Henry Hudson helped them colonize Canada and the Hudson Valley. I got a little ahead of myself before, but now we'll get to the big guy here, right? Christopher Columbus, right? So Columbus, as we saw with Hudson, they wanted to find a new way to get to Asia. Previously, they'd have to go from here all the way to Europe, around Africa, and into Asia. A long journey, and right down here, rough waters. But Columbus wanted to find a new route, so Columbus's strategy, like Hudson's, was to go a different way, but Hudson wanted to go into the Arctic. Columbus's plan was to go west. He thought if he could just go this way, if we go back over here, he just land right here. As if this does not exist. But obviously he did not know that. So he goes west and he gets a new boss. He's originally Italian, but the Spanish said, "Hey, we like what you're doing. We don't want to go around Africa anymore. Help us find the way." And he said, okay. They gave him a crew. They gave him a whole bunch of people. And he found, accidentally, the island of Hispaniola, which we know from before. Once Ponce de Leon got to Puerto Rico, was already founded. And Columbus landed on there, right? So this is the present day Haiti and Puerto Rico. But he lands on Hispaniola and thinks he's in India. And thinks that the native people on the island are Indians from India. So that's not correct, right? So he gets there and he begins to colonize and treat them really harshly. Here's an image of his men, lining up the natives, enslaving them. So he gets there and basically says, "I'm taking over." Really harshly treats the natives there, harshly treats anything there, and acts like it's been his all along. So here are some Columbus myths. Did not discover America. Nah, he landed in Hispaniola. It was actually Leif Erikson who discovered North America way back when. We didn't talk about him, but he was a Viking. He found Canada. We know Henry Hudson found a lot more Canada. So didn't discover America. Mistaken native people for Indians. That's where the name Indians gets synonymized with Native Americans. They're not, Indians are from India, and Native Americans are what the native people of North America should be called, and that's their proper name and stuff. So Native people are not Indians, they are native people. So that's where that stereotype comes from. He mistaken Hispaniola for India, didn't land there, landed on an island in the Caribbean, and caused major issues for the entire planet. Now, if you don't know what I'm talking about here, well, we're going to get into it right now. It's something called the Columbian Exchange. Now, Columbus really didn't have anything to do with the Columbian Exchange. It more was named after him, after how he came over and colonized the New World. So here's the Columbian Exchange. Basically, it was the exchange of goods between the Old World and the New World, and it wasn't just one exchange. It was the beginning of trade between the colonies in the New World on the left and the countries on the Old World. So whatever's in the New World, like tobacco, potatoes, that wasn't never in Europe or the Old World before. That was only there because the Europeans came and colonized North America. So things like, as you see here, tobacco, pumpkin, turkey, sweet potato, squash, avocado, pineapple, peppers, cacao bean, peanuts, potatoes, tomatoes, corn, beans, vanilla, all never had them before in Europe, in Africa, in Asia. Never had them before. All new things being introduced. Now, they got really, really benefited off of it, Their industry, they got new crops. European industry really thrived from this beginning of trade, and which is labeled the Columbian Exchange. The Old World, not so much. They got coffee bean, they got peaches and pears, olive, citrus, juice, banana, honeybee. So, livestock. Now, a lot of this stuff being brought over to the New World, a lot of these crops contaminated the soil and other crops that were already planted there because they never lived together before, right? So they rotted everything around it. The new livestock either didn't survive or killed other livestock already there. Like, it was a big problem. Well, probably the biggest problem was disease, as you can see. Let's look at this disease one over here. Disease. So the native people never came in contact with any other type of people before, right? So when the Europeans came over, the Europeans were already immune or had smallpox, influenza, typhus, measles, malaria, whooping cough, stuff like that. Native people never ever saw that in their lives. So what happens when the Europeans come there and start interacting with them? They catch these diseases and kill a majority of the native population. So, basically, here's the Columbian Exchange for you. Really good for the Old World, really bad for the New World. But, you think, right, cows. You just know right now that cows are a thing. Back before the Columbian Exchange, there were no cows in North America. Same with potatoes. So a lot of you probably heard of the potato famine. There would have been no potato famine had it not been for the Columbian Exchange. So, today, we've talked about 3 explorers, Juan, Ponce de Leon, Henry Hudson, and Christopher Columbus, and the Columbian Exchange. Alright, so this information is going to help us understand future colonization further in this unit, and kind of how all these countries gain their territory, the beginning of relations of people from Europe and native people, and stuff like that. Like, this information is going to be very prevalent in the future. So that brings us to our question of, where do we go from here? So our next 3 lessons will be about the European colonies, right? So the explorers start coming over and they start colonizing. People start coming over and start living there. All right. So we're going to be talking in our next 3 lessons. We're going to be talking about a different region of colonies. So we're going to be talking about New England, middle colonies, southern colonies, and we'll see what countries controlled them, what countries gained or lost territory, and what happened in these colonies. And this will all lead us into the end of our unit. So that's what we'll be doing for our last 3 lessons of this unit. And, well, that's all I have for you guys today. See you guys.